Hello and welcome to Mandibil. I thought I would add a few comments to the discussion recently on my Discord server, or on Mandibil's Discord server, linked below, possibly, probably, hopefully, if I remember. And what I recently discussed in depth with one of the members was the idea of the reduction base and axioms, and what can you deduce and what can you reason from that and get to whatever it is you believe you should possibly get to. Now there's a lot of things packed into this, right? And there's one big giant flaw in contemporary or in philosophy in general, which is the notion that you can think your way to everything. And I mean, yes, there are no other tools you can use, but you can think yourself to the correct answer and you can tell everybody else about it, right? You alone, little you, I'm not trying to diminish your importance, but you can think your way to how everybody functions, right? And if I just think long and hard enough, I will eventually get to the truth, right? That's not how it works. But because what you have to work with is what I call the reduction base, and what you think you can derive from that reduction base. Now, a lot of what I'm calling derive or derivatives are something that we use every day as if it's sort of a given, right? I mean, everything that we I sit in my car, I use my iPhone to record and whatever, right? I just take things for granted. But that doesn't mean that because I have chosen to take it for granted, that it's some kind of knowledge that has arrived to me, as if it's an experience that comes with a manual that says this is what it's supposed to mean, right? Now I know that this is sort of possibly one of the hardest steps to take in philosophy. That is the sort of Cartesian doubt scenario, where okay, I have an experience, there is a me and there is an experience, and the me is the one aware of the experience. Okay, that I can say, okay, so far so good, right? I mean, I can't reduce it any more than that, because then everything sort of disappears, right? Okay, so that's the bare bone, right? That's what I call the reduction base. And that which I'm aware of is the reduction base, right? You could say it's sort of difficult to delineate these things because there's so much going on in your mind at all times. So as soon as you start to make these categorization using terms, using words, you are almost inevitably bound to create some kind of misunderstanding, because the meaning of the words, most of these words, are not given, right? It's not something that is completely caught in marble and this is how it should be understood, right? When I say awareness, what do I mean? When I say experience, what do I mean, right? But in my understanding, the way I see it, right, that which you cannot reduce anymore, that is the reduction base. That's another way of saying reduction base, right? And when you think about it, think long and hard. Everything you have is either an experience or something that ultimately, either now or sometime in the past, based on your memories, was based on an experience. So when it all comes down, everything stops with the experience, right? If I have memory of an elephant, well, it was based on an experience of an elephant. If I think about building a bridge, Okay, it means that I have an idea of objects like, steel, wires, tarmac, whatever, right? Which is based on experience, and so on, and so on, and so on. Circles are based on experiences of circles. There might be something that is brought along in the genes, so to say. I don't know what the hell is going on. Some people are just, road rage. I'm driving carefully here, 10 kilometers below the speed limit, right? Okay, keeping a distance to the other cars, and then some big red Tesla sort of gets angry. I don't know what the hell is going on sometimes, right? Okay. Where was I? Well, yes, let me get back to the qualia, right? So, or quail and the experience. And what I refer to when I say experience is the qualia. It is colors, it is sounds, it is tastes, it is feels, and it is smells, right? These 5 types of qualia, they are the reduction base. And the point of it is manifold in the sense that you can't reduce it any further. You can't explain the color yellow, right? Without being circular. You can't say yellow is, you can only say, well, yellow is like that object that you tend to experience as yellow. But then you're just referring to the object that has that qualia, or that is related with that qualia, that particular type of that qualia, right? So you can't explain yellow, right? No matter what you do, right? You can't explain it. So you can't go any deeper than that, right? From the reduction base. And the reduction base is that which you use to figure out whether or not people are talking about something that you can experience, right? But the point is also that in my philosophy, that what you refer to when you talk about the world are not, I mean, you also talk about colors and smells and sounds and yeah, of course, but what you tend to refer to are the objects, like car and bicycle and sandwich and, rocket and so on, right? You don't go, that's yellow, right? Oh, there's a smell. That's not, it's sort of, they are the tools you have to get to some kind of objectification. But still, the objectifications are only there because you had an experience, right? So, because I'm the only one having my experience, and it's the only experience I have an access to, right? If I talk to other people, well, I'm kind of implicitly saying that I expect them to be like me, right? But I can't know if I'm just talking to my own experiences, right? There's nothing about my experiences that tells me this is how it supposed to be understood, right? Just because it behaves like me, it's just an experience I have, right? So if I say that somebody else has an experience, I can't prove that. I can't reason towards it. I can't deduce it from anything, right? I can have an idea that is probably the case, but that's not a good argument, right? That's not any kind of proof or any kind of deduction or anything like this. It's just like, I guess they have, right? What I would do is what I call an axiom. I would say, I am stating an axiom I am working from. I'm not force-feeding anybody else my axioms, right? I am working from my axiom, which says I am going to work from the axiom that other individuals, those who look like me, at least to some extent, but has arms and legs and can speak in a language and whatever, right? They have a similar functioning mind as I have. I can't deduce it, right? I can only axiomize it. That's why I'm such a big proponent of axioms. But mind you, it's not a sort of universal rule of any kind. It's not like I am stating this axiom and people must follow me, right? That's the sort of mystic kind of, that's how people have always done it, right? It's, I have to get to these axioms that people have to follow. No, I'm very particular about saying that it's actually there to show that you don't have to follow it, basically, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but it's when you have your own philosophy, you could say that, okay, well, what are your axioms, right? Well, I had this axiom. Would you agree with me? Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, so far so good, right? But if you don't agree with my axiom, well, maybe we shouldn't work together, right? I mean, it's a lot of what's it called? The ground law that people can work from. But there's nobody who's running around and saying, this is the ground law that we came up with and you have to obey it. No, that's statism. That's governments threatening people to submit to them, right? Which is just about destroying the Western world and the rest of it, right? So what it's about is you have to think for yourself. You have to come up with some kind of understanding of how things work in your mind, right? And it might be a tough job to find people who agree with you on axioms, right? And they may have axioms that you don't have, or their way of philosophizing, converges towards some particular axioms that you don't need because you have another way of philosophizing, right? So I'm not saying it's easy, but it might be some kind of negotiation, right? Okay, I'm willing to go with your axiom in this case if you're willing to go with my axiom in that case, and so on, right? Otherwise you need to, the way things work now is there's somebody who calls themselves your rulers, basically, who says, these are the rules, obey them, right? Well, fuck you, man, right? And are they decent philosophers? Are they philosopher kings? Yeah, Joe Biden is such a smart philosopher, right? He's such a great dude, right? Well, fuck you, man, right? So what it is about is people coming together who are working from the same axioms, right? And those who are not working from the same axioms, I will, reserve the right to be distanced or disconnected from them, right? So you have to agree on your axioms, basically, in order to get along. You might be able to get along even if you don't have, 50% of your axioms in agreement. But it would sort of be advisable to find somebody to live with who works from the same axioms, right? And a lot of what is going on in the world nowadays is people trying to either force you into their axioms or pretending that they don't have particular axioms, and then they take advantage of you because they actually had some other axioms, and so on, right? So it's like, that's why I'm so, critical about people like Bernardo Castro, who just thinks that he has solved everything. And he can tell everybody, this is how you function, this is what you experience, this is what this is that, and this is an impingement on you, and the big guy outside, and all this bullshit, right? There were no axioms that I can agree with. Don't fucking tell me how I function, right? You're just an experience on my screen of perception. I'm not going to listen to my experiences and let them tell me how I should understand my experience, right? You understand the contradiction or the paradox involved in that, right? So it's also these problems that are inherent also in Bernardo Castorp, is that he has some ideas that how things work, and then he proceeds to violate them, not explicitly but implicitly in what he's saying, right? So it's you only have your experiences, and then he proceeds to talk about anything but experiences as what is important. No. In my opinion, everything has to be reducible to your experiences, because ultimately that's the tool you have to agree with other people on what the fuck is going on, right? When Bernardo Castorp starts to talk about little ripples outside your experience or something like that, right? Can you experience little ripples somewhere? No, right? But I can't tell you what you experience, but I can tell you I'm not experiencing any ripples. So he's just fabulating or creating some story that fits with whatever he wants to be the case, right? Or at least that's the conclusion you need to, draw from it. Why else would he do it? If not, if he does not want some particular story to be the case. He's not saying, well, now I leave it to you to decide whether or not my axioms fit with your philosophy. No. He says, this is the case, that is the case, this is the case, this is an impingement, and there are ripples there, and so on, right? That's not good philosophy, in my opinion, right? You need to establish your reduction base, and that is what I say you can't reduce. When you talk, whatever you talk about in your mind, that is that which you can't reduce any further, right? And then you establish axioms all the way until you get to, I would say, my stance at the moment is until you get to knowledge, right? That is axiomized all the way to knowledge. And from knowledge, you use definitions. But that might be changing in the future. That's just my sort of quick and dirty philosophy, right? Axiomize all the way to knowledge, and from knowledge you define things, right? But it might change, right? But at least there's a lot of axiomization. At some point it will switch over to be definitions. So I am planning on or thinking about making a presentation at some point, right? In which I sort of graphically think I can make a presentation that might be helpful, at least in understanding what I'm trying to say here, right? And it's also, just to rewind a bit, I think one of the problems in philosophy that makes people think that philosophy is so damn complicated, it is because people are using anything but their experiences as any foundation to their philosophy, right? So it has to be all kinds of abstractions and conceptualizations and ideas and models and, science and mathematics, and it's just one big pile of abstractions. But they are all derivatives from your experiences, some way or another, right? And it makes things so simple. And when you talk about anything going on in your mind, and you have the axiom that other individuals have the same potential reduction base as you have, then you can say, well, what I'm referring to is that thing that is yellow and tastes like this and has this shape and, has that color and that sound and so on, right? That's something people can understand because they have the same kind of reduction base, axiomatically, from my point of view, right, in my philosophy. And they can, when you talk about something, then they can go and sort of say, well, okay, can I get to my reduction base, right? Is it a reference to the reduction base? Well, then it's a reference to the reduction base. Then it can't be the reduction base, right? So if you are using a reduction base as a foundation, or the abstractions from a reduction base, which is an experience of something that is potentially outside yourself. Well, whatever you derive from an experience of something outside must be something different than that experience of that outside, right? So how do you get to talk about ripples outside? Because a ripple is some kind of an abstraction from an experience, right? And the abstraction is purely in your mind. It's not out there, right? It's not even in your experience. It's an abstraction of your experience, right? So I mean, my philosophy hangs together, right? I can go all the way from my reduction base to mode principle. I'm pretty confident. There are little gray areas here and there I need to get a grab on, right? But I can go all the way pretty simply. And I'm establishing axioms. And if people don't like my axioms, fine. Then, well, we can't be friends then, right? Fine. Maybe I'll be alone in the world. Okay. I'll have to live with that, right? So, but, you know, there are a few people who are sort of, you know, respecting or can see that there's something to what I'm saying. So it's not completely crazy. I hope not, right? So I've always been a very sort of no bullshit kind of guy. Jeg hader alt det der nørkleri, hvor man gerne vil lyde som om man er pisse klog, ikke? Fordi det burde ikke være nødvendigt, at i filosofi, at alting skal være så fucking kompliceret. Det kan ikke være rigtigt, fordi livet er ikke så kompliceret. Jeg sidder her og kører bil, og jeg sidder og snakker. Jeg behøver dog nok at tænke over, hvad det er, jeg laver. Og alligevel kan jeg køre fra A til B, ikke? Hvor jeg bruger mine oplevelser. Excuse me, I switch over to Danish. I don't know actually why I did that. I'm driving from A to B, and I'm using my experiences. But I'm not even decently aware of what I'm doing. I mean, I'm very little aware. I'm only aware to the degree that I need what I need to do in order to control my car here, right? And yet that's what I'm doing. I'm going from A to B without any need for, you know, higher levels for a priori transcendental impingement of, you know, spaghetti monsters and whatever, right? Bull fucking shit, man, right? Get away with that. It has to be simple because things are working in a simple fashion, right? You might have some stupid ideas of what to do about your experiences, but your experiences, I would say, is possibly as simple as my experiences, right? So why make it so complicated? I don't get it. Well, maybe I do, but... And that's, you know... That, I mean, there's also a need to be right. I need to be right. If I can't convince other people, maybe I'm alone in the world, right? I have to convince other people to be like me, right? I'm sort of talking third person, you know. So it's like... How do you go about presenting philosophy? I mean, it should be the most, you know, mandatory self-infliction to do some philosophy in order to figure out what the hell you should do with your experiences, right? Don't just listen to what your mommy and daddy told you, right? They're probably not right unless they, for some extreme reason, are the greatest philosopher ever, right? So they're probably just force-feeding you what they think you should do, right? So start philosophizing, right? And if you have a sense that the more you philosophize, the more complicated things get, you're probably not on the right track, right? I might be completely wrong. I find it highly unlikely, but, you know, right? If it gets more and more complicated, I would say you're possibly on the wrong track, right? If things sort of start to fall in place and say, well, I actually don't need that. It's actually quite simple or something like that, right? Be careful, it might be too simple, right? But, you know, it has to work with your everyday. Philosophy is not something you do Sunday afternoon over a cup of tea or something like that, and then you get back to your everyday as you always done, right? It is about your life. It is your life you're dealing with when you're philosophizing, right? And maybe that's why a lot of people don't really understand what the hell you're doing. I mean, what do I do? How do you philosophize? What do you do, right? I mean, why would I philosophize? I might even find out that something I don't like, right? So I encourage you to do some thinking, and I'm happy to people coming and criticizing for my deconstructions of Bernardo Kastrup and whatever. Fine, I'm open. I mean, if I present some arguments 2 or 3 times and you keep saying that I'm wrong or something, okay, I might not venture further down that road, right? But I'm open for anything, basically, right? So, and I'll answer to the extent that I have the time and I have the need and so on, right? So I'm quite busy at work at the moment. I've recently acquired a fantastic job as a project manager, and it is going to take. I'm going to, take a lot of my time, of course, right? More than I usually have of spare time from my previous jobs, right? So, otherwise, have a nice day. See you in the next one.